What is the secret to prospecting new business? We can cast a wide net, but how do we connect with business leads that actually pan out? As a small business owner, you don't have the time or money to waste. So today we will uncover the secret to prospecting, the key to finding new business. Welcome back to the Omaha Podcast, where Omaha's most successful entrepreneurs help you grow your business. I'm your host, Matt Tompkins with Two Brothers Creative. So how do you reach out to the right people and gain new customers? On this episode of the Omaha Podcast, we're going to learn how to successfully prospect for new business. Whether you're looking for customers or partners, these tips will help you get started. Jeff Beals from Grow Omaha joins us once again to talk about the secrets he uses to prospect new business. I don't think I'm alone in saying that it is very annoying when you get those messages. You get bombarded with these messages on whatever social channel you're using. You're on Facebook, LinkedIn. I get them all the time. There are these messages, they have a title. They have a word that we describe them as spam. And nobody likes spam. You get the emails. Email marketing can turn into that as well. Really, any form of marketing can turn into spam. It can come across disingenuous and just not work, and not only not work for you, but eliminate the opportunity to reapproach or come back to somebody that you're trying to turn into a new business lead. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to prospect for new business here on the podcast. And joining us to talk about it is like the expert, the top aficionado in his field, because you do this all over the world and going around and helping coach people. You're a sales strategist. You obviously host Grow Omaha on KFAB and growomaha.com. You can listen to the podcast, watch their videos. It's a very effective, resourceful tool I would recommend for people to check out. And so it's great to have you here today to talk about this.
Thanks, Matt.
Yes.
Honored to be with you.
The one and only Jeff Beals. Did I like suck up enough there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm starting to get a little fat-headed.
He's not blushing though, because he knows it's all true. He's like, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You're kind.
So let's talk about, we'll circle back to whether or not social media and what I was describing there is anything you should even do or try, or how to do it correctly maybe is a better way, because it can be effective if you do it right. It's so easy to do this wrong though, right? So let's talk about the needs first. What do businesses need for their immediate success, their immediate bottom line when it comes to prospecting new business leads?
Well, first of all, it's a mindset. I mean, as a business, you have to be of the mindset that you are obsessed with those people who are not yet your customers, not yet your clients. And you can never have too many people in your pipeline, period. End of discussion. You can never have too many prospects, because things happen over the course of time. Current customers leave, hot leads don't pan out. So that's one thing that I always get a little bit frustrated with. For instance, I worked with a manufacturer once. I do a lot of sales training for manufacturing companies. And the head of sales said, the operations people are breathing down my neck. They're frustrated because they say we're producing too much business and that we need to slow back because they can't keep up with all of it. What do you think I should do? And you want to know my answer? I said, you should bury the bastards, because, and no offense to the ops people, I don't think they're really bastards, but you should bury them.
And you're not going to literally bury them, but
no,
yes, I get
bury them with business. Because, and now some operations people and some CEOs might say, Jeff, that's really irresponsible. But I'll tell you what, the moment that manufacturer takes its foot off the gas pedal, you start a series of events which will lead to downtime and having to eliminate a shift down the road.
It's that having that scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset, which I know is like high level thinking, and business coaches use that, but it's very true. I mean, if you're only focused on what you don't have or can't do, or those placing like restrictions and barriers on what your potential is, that really starts to shape who you are just simply as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And I think you're talking about there is I think it's Silicon Valley. They have like the phrase they use, it's grow or die. I think it's it's true. Grow or die, which is extreme as well. But It's true. If you're not growing, not just financially, I'm talking like growing as a business, as a person, what's the point in doing it? You don't want to just remain stagnant for the rest of your career. So what does prospecting new business look like today?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, it's the most important thing that anyone in sales does. And I always like to say that the reason salespeople are paid on commission and many times even 100% commission, or at least they have bonuses, is because of prospecting. It's not because you're good at filling out contracts. It's not because you're good at following up after the sale.
It's not my good looks and my charm, or
well, in your case,
okay,
perhaps, but in my case,
I'm the
sure
exception.
Hell isn't. So you're paid on commission because people don't like to go approach strangers and ask them for business. And I always define prospecting as the act of interrupting someone's day when they don't expect to hear from you in order to provide them with something they need, but they might not yet know about.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, interrupting someone's day is tough because that triggers our natural fear of rejection. And we all have it, unless you're a sociopath, in which case sometimes I envy sociopaths, but unless you're a sociopath, we all have that fear of rejection.
Yeah.
And so the reason they're paid on commission is because it's not easy to get people to do that. And so prospecting is the single most important thing that you have to do, and you have to be willing to do it all of the time. Matt, I always like to say that prospecting is like brushing your teeth. You don't take a day off, and hopefully you do it more than once a day.
Yes. I mean, if you ever want to speak to another person, again, if you're a sociopath, then you're good. You don't have to brush your teeth either. So what is like the best techniques specifically for Omaha? Because that's our focus here on the show, is we want to give entrepreneurs and business owners here in Omaha specifically the tools that they can implement and use today, and a lot of these don't really cost money necessarily, but they do take time, effort, and knowing what you're doing, which is why people hire you. So what are the key things that I could do or somebody could do here in Omaha to increase the number of prospects they get for new business, and then convert those into actual business?
A couple thoughts come to mind. One, you want to mix it up a bit. Just as a business likes to have multiple streams of income, a salesperson wants multiple streams of prospects. And so you're going to do some social media. You're going to do some networking. You're going to do some email prospecting. You're going to do some telephone prospecting, and you're going to do some office pop-ins. You can mix it all up. Now, this is the part that a lot of people listening are not going to like hearing today, and that is the telephone actually remains the number one prospecting tool despite all of the new technology we've had, when you factor in effort and money put into it and results put out. So is showing up and meeting with someone in person a better form of prospecting in terms of results? Hell yes. But is it easier to get a hold of a lot of people on the phone than it is to meet everyone in person? Absolutely no question. So believe it or not, the lowly old telephone, which is 140, 150-year-old technology, is still numero uno.
And I think when people think telephone, they think the long cable, or remember those ones in the 90s that were the latest thing that had the 2-foot antenna that you pulled out of it? Those are the days. They don't know how good they have it today. No, you're right. When people think of a traditional telephone, maybe that feels dated. Let me just kind of reshape how you think about a call or what that means in its basic terms. I mean, through the pandemic, there were a lot, that's an understatement, of challenges that businesses faced, and a lot of businesses went out of business because it was a once in a generational thing that we all kind of went through in different ways. One thing that came out of it, though, is it really accelerated how we communicate with each other in different ways. And you tell somebody Zoom has become a verb, and you hey, let's Zoom later. You can Zoom me. I think that's what I think of when I think of a call. I mean, yeah, your phone, you have FaceTime. We can incorporate video now. It's not just calling someone on a traditional telephone. When I'm doing a meeting and people don't have their camera on, it always reminds me, the CEO actually of a really big company says, no, it's a requirement. You have to have your camera on because we need to see your face, your reaction. We need to tell, are you happy? Are you in a good place? Or is something going wrong in your life? Those are things that you can't really just pick up with a phone call that I think you can with video. So that's an advantage or a tool that we should take advantage of today. So as we talk about the different ways to prospect new business, social media you mentioned, the phone calls, where do you go? I'm starting my hypothetical business from scratch, taking the leap. I got my money I need, but I have to bring in new business and bring it in fast. Where do you go? Besides calling them, we talked about that in the video chats. Like, where do you go to get them?
Yeah. First of all, you're going to create a social media online presence as fast as you humanly can. But frankly, that's marketing, not sales. Okay. The social media stuff gets you credibility and burnishes the brand. And it also gives you access to leads, right? I mean, your connections on LinkedIn can be a lead generation source for your prospecting efforts. But the problem is a lot of people will put too much emphasis on the social media for the prospect. And we can get into that a little bit more in a moment if you'd like. But I think that's the first thing you have to do is establish your brand, and that's going to be heavily online, right? And then as far as getting the leads, you think to yourself, okay, who exactly am I going to serve? And you have to know exactly who is in your business's target audience, and you're going to want to start to put together lead sheets of people who meet the criteria that would most benefit from the product or the service that you sell. And then I'm going to go back to that telephone again. Yes, I believe very heavily in the power of Zoom and other platforms like that. I use them almost every day in my life. But when I'm first initially going to reach out to a prospect for the first time, especially if I want to hit a lot of prospects who don't know me in a short period of time, I'm going to use the traditional telephone.
Yeah. I'm leaving a voicemail.
I'm picking this up.
Oh, yeah, right.
If we had more time, I would get into the art of leaving a voicemail. I could do an hour class on voicemails. Voicemails are one of the greatest tools we have as prospectors. And 80% of sales professionals don't even leave voicemails. Dumbest thing they could possibly do, not to leave a voicemail.
I leave too many, and they're long. No, I'm kidding.
They need to
I'm
be
talking
short.
about the ones that I leave, like my friends.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to leave me a 2-minute, 3-minute, 20-minute voicemail. You can just tell me.
You're rehashing like everything you did last weekend together.
I'm a radio guy. That's my origin story. I talk too much sometimes. So.
No, but a 30 to 40 second or less voicemail in the prospecting world is gold. Mm-hmm. And also you have to remember when you're cold prospecting, it takes on average, let's say you're calling a decision maker, someone who makes significant decisions for a company or an organization. It's taking now between 8 and 12 attempts on average to get a live interactive conversation with the decision maker. Scares people to death because no one wants to be a pest. We all have that fear of rejection.
Rejection, yeah.
Right.
That's tough to overcome.
But you have to do it. And we're talking about cold people. All we're trying to do is to get them to have a meeting with us, to get a live interactive conversation with us, whether it's in person or via technology is irrelevant. Yeah. So those would be the things that I would do. I'd focus on my brand and start to establish online credibility as fast as possible. I'd know exactly who I'm serving, and I would chase those people as I generate my leads. And then for the very first outreaches, like I said earlier, people don't want to hear this. Yeah. But go telephone
or in person. Personalize it is what I'm saying. Is what I'm hearing you say. I think my wife loves to craft. We've talked about her crafting obsession. She's really good. Like we're talking stationary cards, all this fancy. Like she could sell them. They're that good. But she loves doing it, and I love being able to use that because she loves doing it. We send these personalized cards to people, things like that. They leave that impression, right? So you stand out, and you want to be known as the go-to, the person in your industry. And when you're in an industry of sales where there's a lot of salespeople, how are you going to stand out in a way that matters? So I think building that, again, back to building relationships, but I think that those are some techniques that really work. The phone call, a card, however you can customize it to make it your own. A lot of the things that you talk about, I've been coached on, and I coach other people on with podcasting, because people have to think of a podcast as a business, because it is. If that's what if you're trying to make money or just build a large enough audience to help your business. So these are the same kind of lessons that you want to apply. And people ask me, or I ask them, who do you want to speak to? Like, who is your listener, your ideal listener? And most of the time I hear the response initially of, everybody. Yeah. And I think
terrible answer.
Businesses have that same, that's natural. That's natural thinking. Well, I don't want to alienate anybody. I want everybody to come here. And what's fascinating, I'm curious if this is kind of what you've seen work as well with sales and with new prospecting new business. When you dial it in hyper specific on just a single profile, a person, that is actually where you do reach everybody. If you try to be everything to everybody, you end up being nothing to anybody. You don't resonate deeply with that one person. You're kind of mediocre or just kind of in the noise or the space with a lot of people. And it's just not an effective strategy for, building an audience or building new prospects.
Yeah, you have to know exactly who you're speaking to, and then you have to really spend a lot of time working on your message. I always say the first thing you want to do if you want to have a great message to that person you're speaking to is to have a good idea what it is that they truly value and care about without any ambiguity or assumption, okay? And then once I know that, I want to craft messages that I think would really matter to them. You use the example of your wife. She's a crafter, right? But she also has a career. If I approached her talking about something that she's passionate about, in her case, crafting, I'm going to have a lot more success if she's never heard of me in getting a meeting or a conversation with her than if I start bombarding her with the features and benefits of the stuff that I sell. Or I make the critical error of, her name is Wendy.
Yeah.
I say, hey, Wendy, Jeff Beals from Jeff Beals and Associates. We're a sales consulting company. I'd love to stop by your office, pick your brain, take about 30 minutes of your time and see if it's a fit for me to work with you. That's useless and worthless and frankly selfish on my part because I'm asking to steal her time for
You're
giving
making
no
it
value.
about you instead of the person you're trying to help.
But even if the work she does has absolutely nothing with crafting, if I approach her from a crafting perspective, for whatever reason, maybe I have expertise in that, I'm going to have more success in getting that coveted interactive conversation with her than if I just start, as I like to say, vomiting features and benefits all over a poor, unsuspecting prospect.
Yeah. I mean, that you're personalizing it, you're making it unique, I think. And, I try and those are the two main points I would say for building an audience anywhere.
Yes.
Would be what makes you unique, like truly unique, like why you, and then who is your ideal, target person or audience or whoever you're trying to reach, a listener. You have to know those two things. You have to know what makes you unique. I mean, I've talked openly about going through, my addiction and recovering from that. And that's a thing maybe people would shy away from. I don't want to talk about that. It's embarrassing or it's taboo, but it's not. I mean, it's part of who I am and who I've become and today, and that impacts everything I do. And it's a way people can connect with me because most people have relatable stories. Or, I have a niece that loves to craft too, or whatever the topic might be. So it's a great way to go in and really effectively and quickly build that trust, that relationship that you're trying to do to prospect a new client. So we've talked about some of the things we should do. Now I'd like to finish with some of the things we shouldn't do, or how we can do this prospecting wrong, or maybe wrong is a harsh term, but in a way that isn't as effective for, a small business owner and entrepreneur right here in Omaha. I mentioned social media at the front end. Would you agree with me that there's really no wrong tool to use? Social media is very effective if you use it the right way. Email marketing, it may be effective if you do it the right way. It can be really effective to reach people or calling people, but there are techniques that can be counterproductive to your needs and your business. And so would you agree with that, number one? And then what are those effective techniques that kind of work across the board to do it right?
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. You have to be very careful which tools you use because you are correct, Matt. There's no bad prospecting tool, just bad execution. And frankly, there's more bad execution of prospecting that I see than good execution. And one of the places where I see a lot of bad execution is in social media. Social media is great. I've been using social media for my sales training business since I started doing it in 2008, and I've had a lot of success with it. But you got to know what social media is, and that is primarily a marketing and lead generation tool. So I use social media the way a company would use advertising. To me, it's for brand and credibility, okay? And then if I do a good job with branding and credibility, then I also have access to people through social media platforms to create my lead lists and all that. Now, is it possible that sometimes I will put out a piece of content on social media and it'll impress someone so much, resonate with them so much that they pick up the phone and schedule me for a $10,000 speech? Yeah, that's happened. Could I live on it? Absolutely no.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I think people sometimes get frustrated with social media because they don't realize what its limitations are. If your only source of prospecting is going to be social media. In most cases, that's going to fail unless you have a certain type of e-commerce business in which that might work. But most people don't. Most people use social media as a crutch or, frankly, a cop-out. Give you an example of what I'm talking about. Matt, how many times do you get a LinkedIn invitation from someone who you don't know, and you get that little alarm that goes off in your head that they're just going to try and sell me something, and for whatever reason,
Facebook event invite. That's why only 10% of my friends, if that, show up when I invite them to my birthday party. But that's a different issue.
It's a personal
day.
problem.
That's a different reason.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. It's not as personal.
But let me ask you this. So you get that, right? How many times do you get that email? Multiple times a day, probably, right?
Yeah, and you get a lot of them, yeah.
And sometimes you have a weak moment and you click accept, okay? How long does it typically take after you click accept before someone is direct messaging you through LinkedIn, vomiting features and benefits all over it?
And that happens because sometimes it isn't even a real person. It's a company has set that up through AI or whatever tool they're using to it's just this kind of, shotgun approach where we're just going to see if we can net any fish instead of casting a wide net, instead of kind of having a more laser focused approach to what you're doing. And, with social media, it's also interesting because each social platform is different too.
Right. Yeah.
Facebook that's a networking platform. TikTok is an entertainment platform.
Right.
Instagram, they work in different ways. So you can't use one, the wrong way or the way you should use it, a different platform. And one other last thing I just wanted to throw in is an example. I had a person that I was working with, and they said, I'm not really getting a lot of business leads through my Facebook page, getting a lot through my LinkedIn page. So I'm going to quit doing the Facebook thing and just do this.
Mistake.
Well, look at why LinkedIn is working. And I said, are you using your individual Facebook, your profile for you and not the business to share your content and interact with people? No, I don't do any of that. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine, but that's a reason. Your LinkedIn account is you. People want to connect and communicate with a person. So sometimes we, depend too heavily on, I'm going to have a page and that's it. And that's the only, like you said, only one way of communicating, and that can backfire. If it's not personalized, if people don't feel that connection, it's not going to resonate.
Oh, absolutely. Like in my case, LinkedIn is my primary social media tool for my sales consulting and training business. But I always think about ways that I can say little things on Facebook which reinforce what I do, because those 4,000 some people I'm connected to on Facebook are a little more personal than the LinkedIn. Okay. But the people that have a little more or a lot of a personal relationship with you can be a big source of business. I once, back when I was doing commercial real estate brokerage many years ago, once found out about a major real estate purchase that a relative of mine made by reading the business paper. It didn't use me. Okay. And when I talked to the relative about it, the relative said, "Oh, I forgot that you were in real estate." And so ever since that day, I have always thought, okay, I need to make sure the people who are in my own backyard, right under my nose, so to speak, remember me and what I do, because they're the ones that should be giving me all of their business. Yeah. So Facebook is very, very important for getting new business. But if it's your sole tool, you're probably going to be eating ramen noodles and going bankrupt.
Hey, you have to know how it works. And that's why Jeff Beals has an amazing TikTok channel where he does dance-off competitions and dance challenges.
With no shirt on. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that was the case. I'm glad. I'm not so glad I brought that up, because people are going to search for that, and it's going to.
Actually, I don't have a TikTok. I have all the other ones.
Yeah, you have to know how people are using the platform too. We talk about knowing what your customer needs. Well, how are they using this platform? If I'm using email just to communicate internally, and I get bombarded with outside emails or spam, as it's well known, it's not going to connect. It's not going to work as well. So, if I'm using TikTok and I'm pushing, different things out there. People use TikTok now. I think it's the top way that the Generation Z actually reads and consumes their news.
Just my kids love it.
For Boomer generation, they get most of their news from Facebook. I think that's over 50% of where they get breaking news and information. So you got to know who your profile, who your person is you're trying to help, and then how they're using these various tools. A lot of important techniques, tips for the field, I think, that we had from each day. And I know you could probably do, what would you guess? Like 48 straight hours, 2 weeks, if you were just talking nonstop about this.
Yeah. If I didn't have to sleep, I could actually. But I do a lot of full day programs. So, yeah.
And you can find out more jeffbeals.com,
Yes,
right?
sir.
That is your website. Of course, you can listen to his advice for free at growomaha.com or
Omaha Growth and Development Talk. Yep.
tune into the radio, listen to your podcast. A lot of different ways you can find out and learn and hear from Jeff the way that you prefer, just like we were talking. So
absolutely,
great having you back on the podcast here. Thank
you.
That's the first time anybody's shaken my hand on the podcast.
Really?
It's very
unprofessional.
I feel like we're breaking new ground here. Usually they run away from it. Jeff, no, it's personalizing it.
That's right.
I like it. Jeff Beals, appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Matt. It's an honor.
Thanks for joining us here today on the Omaha Podcast. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And we have some big news coming up for you for 2023. Some big events coming up for small businesses. I'm going to try and help you out here with some celebrities, some celebrity business stars. We're going to mix it up. We're going to get a panel. Who knows? One of them might rhyme with Schmerich Schmrouch. I hope I didn't give it away. This is the Omaha Podcast, where Omaha's most successful entrepreneurs help your business grow.